Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome back to The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Today we have just 3 chapters to cover. Chapter 21, 22, and 23. So I hope you've read that far. I don't want to ruin anything for you. Chapter 21 is all about Kvothe trying to find his place in this town that he is now stranded in. As Kvothe is walking around town, he wanders into a tavern where there is a man who is telling stories to little children. Probably about half of his age. This man is named Travis, and apparently he goes to this tavern every day about the same time and tells stories to children or anyone else who wants to sit and listen. Kvothe could not be happier finding this because it gives him a sense of family and a sense of belonging to be in that tavern and with that person. Kvothe continues around town and comes across a man who is helping children survive on the streets. Now, this man isn't necessarily housing these children. He's just mending their bones and mending their illnesses. And at first, when you read about this man, it's very disturbing because he's tending to a child who has been strapped down to a bed and is screaming and moaning, and it just kind of gave me images of nearly torture porn.
I was like, no, bad.
But it turns out that this man was just doing it because he cared for the person, and he didn't want the person to hurt themselves in their maniac episode. So now Kvothe has a man to lean to for storytelling and comfort, and a man to lean to for health-related issues. If he should ever get harmed, he should just go to this man and he will help him. Kvothe begins walking around town and begging for money and food, and he accidentally wanders into the rich, or high-class part of town. He goes to this high-class part of town, and he finds out this place is celebrating this holiday that's kind of like Halloween, or at least reminds me of Halloween, as everyone is running around with a demon mask on and asking for candy or money or food, and just laughing as they're running around with fireworks and lanterns lit everywhere, and it just seems like a very, very happy time of year for this side of the town. He comes across this exhibit of, I believe it was a juggler or a mime. It was some kind of artistic thing in the streets, and people were all gathered around watching. And he's watching the exhibit when this woman looks down and sees him, incredibly dirty, incredibly broken, and looking nothing but homeless, right? And this woman takes pity on him, and she gives him an incredible amount of money. For him, at least. It's probably just pennies to her, but for him, it could feed him for like a month. Unfortunately, she was being kind, but the people who witnessed it did not see Kvothe as someone who was just begging for money. They saw him as a swindler who was trying to steal from everyone. And they alerted the local guard. And the guard came running over. "Hey, you, pipsqueak! What the fuck are you doing in my town? Get the fuck out of here and don't bother anyone that lives here, because we're a high-class city and you don't belong here." After the guard says this, he continues to beat Kvothe with nearly an inch of his life. As Kvothe is lying there in the street, beaten and bloody, a couple come up, and they are in demon masks, and they actually tend to Kvothe's wounds as quickly as they possibly can before police come and stop what they're doing. I got the sense that this couple wasn't just celebrating the holiday. I got the sense that they were up to some nefarious things. And even though the author didn't say what they were doing, I really, really, really wanted to know exactly what they were up to, because it didn't feel like they were just celebrating. Kvothe gets up and he starts wandering the streets, and he comes across a little girl who is getting some fresh air from a party inside of her own home. And he asks the girl for a blanket and food, and he waits outside while she goes and gets it. The next chapter begins with Kvothe waking up and finding that he's late for Trappist in his storytelling, and running as fast as he can into the tavern and listening to Trappist tell a tale. Now this is where the author did the same thing that he did with his eavesdropping. Since Kvothe was late, we are late, and we missed the beginning of the story. And you get maybe the middle and the end of the story of a god destroying a demon. And it's a legendary battle between the two. And that's pretty much where the chapter ends at the end of the story, leaving you just kind of wanting to come back to Trappist for even more stories and more fun adventures. Since this section is all about Kvothe finding solace in storytelling and the help of others, I thought I would ask you, where do you find solace? And where do you go to find comfort? Yesterday's question was, how do you deal with loss? How do you deal with grief? And if you watched the video that came out right before I started doing this series, well, not right before, but like 3 or 4 weeks before, you know that I just recently dealt with a massive loss in my life. For the first few days, maybe even a week, I just laid in bed and I isolated myself. And it was incredibly unhealthy, but it's the only thing that my body would allow me to do. In order to get over it, I started talking to friends and talking to people about what I was going through. And it was incredibly hard to do at the time, but I found that when I talked to people, when I told them what I was going through, I found that I had more friends who were willing to just be there for me than people who wanted to just say, I don't want to hear about that. That's not to say that people did not tell me that they did not want to hear about that. It was just that those people seemed far less important than the ones that were saying, why didn't you tell me about that? Or would you like to come over and watch a movie with me? Or would you like to go out to dinner sometime and we can talk more? And I found that when I talked about it, I had a lot more friends than I thought I had. So I guess that would be my one piece of advice for any of you that might be dealing with loss right now, is if you're dealing with depression or loss, talk about it with people. Not everyone is going to react the same way. Not everyone is going to be happy about this. But there will be more people than you think who will do whatever they can to help you. And will do just the basic hanging out. And that will help you more than you know. That's all I have for you today. I don't know what I'm going to read next yet, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. I have been the Purple-Haired Doofus, reminding you to watch your pretend race, and I will see you all in the next chapters of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Toodles!